du temps nos assiettes dans tous les liquides que l'on boit. Si le ciel tombe, que la mer monte, ça ne sera que justice. Y'a trop d'oreilles dans les jeunes actions, frère, être humain n'est que caprice.
The two dudes that killed Ahmad Arbery.
Passe le beat numéro 3.
Ahmad Arbery.
Passe le beat numéro 3 est arrivé. Cette fois-ci, on a commencé avec Harvey Drums.
Yeah.
Et on a rajouté la guitare de Reharmer. Comme
Yep.
toujours, allez-y sur le Google Drive pour trouver les pistes originaux et rajouter quelque chose de toi.
It's just funny. It's just that it completely got buried in the news cycle because of COVID. You know, and just the way it kind of came back up. You know, that's crazy. Man. Jesus
transfère
Christ.
les pistes originaux et la vidéo à passeLeBeat@herbside.com. Si tu n'as pas encore consulté notre chaîne YouTube, toutes les versions qu'on a reçues jusqu'à maintenant sont là. Sinon, notre Instagram a seulement des versions plus courtes. À bientôt et hâte à voir vos prochaines créations.
Yeah, dog. Like, yeah, bro. Trust me. Right now, for our two ethnicities, America is not. It's not conducive. It's not conducive to our. It's running? Alright, cool. Oh, so we're like live?
All right, so we are live. This is our very first edition of our Artist Spotlight interview series. You know, we've been offline or online, really, you know, in the fake world and not in the real world for the last little while. If you haven't checked it out, we have the Pass Le Beat thing going on, challenge going on you can find it on YouTube, on Instagram, whatever. We also have been updating our YouTube archives with lots of Cypher sessions. All of that said, it is my great pleasure to introduce to you today our very first guest of the series. His name is, very first, you know. Well, he's doing a lot of hosting on his own. His name is Fredy V. He's a singer, he's an MC, he's a bass player, sometimes guitar player, sometimes piano player, sometimes drummer. You know, he does a little bit of everything. You know him from Urban Science, but you may also know that he's the former frontman of the Boogie Wonder Band. He's performed all over the world with numerous artists, including... So I knew that you worked with Omar, neo-soul artist from the UK, but I didn't know you were the musical director. That's something I want to talk about as well. You're also the co-writer for Tyrolean's I'm Not the One, which was on Circuit Puppy's Grammy-winning Family Dinner Volume 1. And in 2014, for your debut EP Varsity Volume 1 release, you went through a life-threatening incident that required multiple brain surgeries, months of rehabilitation, and thankfully made a full recovery. Continued performing 2017, It Takes a Village, co-produced by our very good friend Anomaly. And then 2018, you took on the job of musical director for the band, the house band for the talk show Les Poilus. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Mr. Fredy V.
Damn, man, just wow.
Little introduction.
Yeah, that was an intro, man. That was, you know, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, a lot of shows, a lot of interviews right now, and I was like, damn, man, I hope my resume and my CV can get there, you know. So one day, the host of a radio show can roll out the red carpet like that, and look at you, just blessing me. Good Lord.
You got. I mean, I think the thing is one of the reasons why I wanted to start this is that I was like, there's so much stuff that various members of Urban Science have done that people are not aware of. You know, they come on a Thursday, they check it out, they enjoy it, and they're like, oh, okay, this guy sings pretty good, or whatever. You know, they don't know what everyone is up to, and I'm hoping to give a little insight into that.
No doubt.
So one thing I did not mention, which I'm going to get into, and there's a reason why I did not mention it, is the way we first met. So we met through the Community Vibe Collective, maybe, holy shit, I want to say like 10 years ago.
Yeah,
anyway, a long time ago.
We knocking on that decade, bro.
Absolutely. So to start with, Fredy, Whoops, where is it? Hold on. This is our first one, so I got. There we go. I'd like you to react to this right over here. So in addition to performing with Community, we did many workshops and all this kind of thing. Tell me a little bit about this poster.
Oh my lord! Well, it's the R&B singer. You know what I'm saying? Like R&B singers, you gotta just reach out and touch somebody. You know what I'm saying? The temptation, the four tops say to reach out. You know, it's always like this, these type of moves. You know, you always gotta. So yeah, so R&B singers reaching out, but what's hilarious about that is that that is the lovely Sarah MK right there. If y'all don't know her, she and I were in this cover band back in the day. I don't know if I'm pretty sure many of the fans of Urban Science may not know, but there used to be this spot called the Jello Bar.
Absolutely.
Back in the day in Montreal, and honestly, like the opportunities that we've had in Montreal to play live R&B, funk, and hip hop are very limited. We're very limited. So Jello Bar was probably the only platform that we had, and that was the beginning of a lot. Actually, that's really where I kind of got my band culture and set up pretty much the platform that I have today. It all pretty much started there, and Sarah MK and I were the lead singers of that. And
so what was the name
always
of the
used to. The name of the band was called Off the Record.
Yeah. Pretend I don't know anything.
So exactly.
Like,
so basically, me and Sarah MK fronted this band called Off the Record, and a lot of bands, it was cover bands, and that's what in Montreal, man. When you play R&B and pop and whatnot, if you're actually trying to get paid and make a living off of your skill set as a musician, your best chances of doing that are with cover bands. So we go in there, lock down to Friday and Saturday, and either people were doing top 40 or they were doing like old school, like 70s and 80s or whatever. So we were like, we need to kind of find our niche. So we went in there and did 90s R&B.
Right.
And like we used to call ourselves not old school but middle school, And a lot of people, like, it was like nostalgia. We created this whole thing. So every time Sarah and I sang the song "Feel Like Making Love," originally by Roberta Flack, but we did the D'Angelo version, I would just mess up the lyrics every time.
But
I think it was like
I got a little insight. I was told that you didn't know that you were messing up the lyrics.
And I had no idea that I was messing up the lyrics. It was like, oh, when you touch me. No, it was the second verse. And I was like, when you touch me and my fingers start to glow. That's what I thought the lyrics were. So I would like actually like act it out like the R&B singer that I am. And my finger. And Sarah was like, V, like it's been 6 months. Like what? No, that's not the lyrics. So she like pretty much pointed it out, and I felt like a biscuit. So since then, you always bring it to my attention. You and Sarah.
The thing is, I had
taking
no
a
idea.
task for that one.
when I made this poster, I had no idea about the story of this whole thing, and I was just I just picked out 2 photos of you, and you happened to both have your fingers out, and then I made this version, whatever. But then I forget when, but I ran into Sarah, and she told me the story behind it, and that you were messing with the lyrics and all this. I was like, oh, are you? So there was another level when you saw that poster. You were like,
oh, levels, bro. Like that picture pretty much encapsulates an era of just me messing up, like Biscuit Fredy, like.
But I mean, I think that's the thing. I think you yourself were saying it in terms of cover bands. You were kind of like, well, you got to make a living and da 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 da, and that is true. But I mean, I think there's also a great value in learning the repertoire and learning the.
Oh yeah, man. For sure.
Just in terms of saying, like, a lot of the people coming to Cypher don't know about Jello Bar. There's so many venues that they probably do not know about. There's so many bands that they don't know about. I came in. This was before I was even like kind of trying to be a player or whatever. But like, I remember the Aliens, and that was like the first group doing black music, doing funk. You know what I mean, in Montreal. Yep. And then like from that, Community and all the other things that have come since. And a lot of people don't know about who came before and what was going on before, the different venues that were coming. Piano Rouge is another spot.
Exactly.
Just. I think there needs to always be a place for this music, and I think that the players will always be there, but there needs to be a place to express.
No doubt, man, no doubt. And it's
Go Go ahead.
It's cool. It's just cool. Like I find the importance of that as well too. And you know, and I told you that's probably one of my principal motivations of, you know, really participating in the cipher and really being involved, you know, because I recognize the importance of it. And I want to make sure that there's a platform when it comes to anything that is derived from Black music, the diaspora, urban culture, whatever you want to put that, whatever umbrella you want to put that under, you know, to make sure that in Montreal is there, because it's always limited, you know. There was the Jello Bar generation, and then there was the Piano Rouge generation, and then this community generation, and this cipher generation, and then now like all of these amazingly talented artists that are kind of like coming out after that, you know. And just to see what it is, but there's always been an institution, there's always been a venue, there's always been a staple, and I look at it like New Orleans Preservation Hall. Like, if people don't do this in Montreal, especially when it comes to R&B, funk, jazz, and hip-hop, and the instrumental side of it, like, if people don't help curate that culture, it will be on the verge of extinction. We will be pushed out, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's hard enough to kind of create our opportunities and find our platforms as it is here. So that's why I find it so important, because if these things don't exist, people won't have like a regular spot to go to get their dose of culture, you know?
I agree. So on that subject, what are your thoughts about the post-isolation world? What venues and what opportunities to play will exist? What are your thoughts on that? Or do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do. I'm definitely keeping a close eye onto it. Me personally, I'm trying to come to terms with it, and I like to keep my expectations low. That way I don't get too disappointed. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I have already made peace that 2020, when it comes to live music, you know, that's just going to be a pause in my career.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that I've already come to peace with that, and it took a second, but it's gonna be cool. It's all good, you know. And then afterwards, I'm just pretty much praying for next summer.
On that subject, so you said 2020 is a big pause. I read your bio, of course. You sent in a bio, and I know that you're working on a new project. And originally, it was like fall 2020 is the release date of the new project. Are you thinking of pushing it back? Are you still planning that? Like how do you?
We are we are exactly right in the middle of taking all of those decisions. We are just like everything, being ready to pivot, staying flexible, reading the news, paying attention to what's going on, keeping on, you know, when it comes to our brand and our marketing and our target audience and all of that, you know, making sure that we're up to date with the developments of what's going on. I think no matter what, we're prepared to release this year. You know, we're prepared, even if we can't do a launch in Montreal and all that type of stuff, we're prepared to do it because we know we have an amazing tool and that we can reach out to people, and we don't want the music to be too dated. You know what I mean? Like, it's still relevant. It's still what it is. So yeah, we're definitely going to go ahead and release, but at the same time, you know, I'm definitely paying attention to what's going on, and everybody in the project knows that we need to stay flexible. And we need to do the things that will be able to put us in the best possible light and make sure that we can reach as many people as possible. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's pretty much it. But I have to say, again, I'm very grateful because, you know, I didn't have a release compromised. I didn't have a Fredy V and the Foundation tour compromised.
Oh, my God.
If the way that this happened to our project, it happened probably in the best possible way,
right,
where we have a bunch of material that we're sitting on, we have a bunch of content that we're sitting on, we worked our asses off in 2019 and we produced a bunch of stuff, and we're just lining up our, you know, we're just loading the chamber, you know, ready to shoot, ready to put our stuff out.
Right.
And it's cool to be able to just sit here and just kind of look at the world and see what's going on, and then we decide when we're going to shoot our shot, you know what I mean?
Right.
And we're very grateful for that. So, yeah, and just try, you know, a lot of anxiety, a lot of things. We don't know what's going on. It's very scary, but we're all holding on to that and being grateful and seeing all the projects that were very much affected by this. And, you know, we're not in that position, and we're in a position to kind of just take decisions and move, you know what I mean? And we'll see. But I'm very optimistic, man. I'm very, very, very optimistic.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, if it was fall, the original release, you know, moving it by 6 months or something, or you know, just having it still released in fall, but you know, you're not really expecting big things to come until the following summer. You know what I mean, in terms of playing
Exactly.
stuff. So it's
Exactly.
not quite the end of the world, you know.
Yeah.
Although we are living through the end of the world right now, but you know. Anyway, I from my perspective, I'm just kind of worried about, you know, what the world will look like after this.
No doubt.
I mean, worried is maybe a strong word. I just feel like a lot of the things that we don't like are going to be accelerated in terms of gentrification and killing venues and culture being killed out. You know, every country going into debt, even great debt. You know.
For sure.
Anyway, that's kind of my perspective on that. But let's focus on Fredy. It's not about me. I'm sorry. Fredy, you're the
Dark!
No, I'm kidding. So, you know, again, looking through Fredy, I wanted to get through some other things that I was finding interesting when I read through your bio and stuff like that. So I always knew that you were a Prince fan, but I didn't realize that, like, you listed it number 1 under your list of influences, and I didn't know that. Like, I was like, oh yeah, he likes Prince, whatever, you know. So that's cool. I'd like to get you to react to something again, and you've probably seen this, but I'm gonna get you to react to it. I'm
so
gonna
afraid.
No, don't
So
worry.
afraid.
This one is totally fine. Okay, here we go. Oh,
Oh yeah, man.
yeah, you've seen this. Eh?
Oh man, night in history, boy. Woo-wee. Mm-mm. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead, Mike. He can sing the blues. And I check out how James Brown tells the band to turn it up fast. He's bump the blues. Check it out.
They pulled the rug out.
That was all James Brown in the back who just like flipped the track. I love how they did that. Hey James, there's somebody in the crowd that I want. Is Prince? Prince is in the crowd too, James. That's what he's saying in his ear. And here comes Santa Claus. hella nervous, man. He's hella nervous, man. It's crazy, man. Woo! Hey! Ow! I hurt him now. Yeah, I got some perspective on this performance actually. So listening
Absolutely,
to a
I
couple
can't
interviews,
wait, you know.
and
I think for guys like me and you, it's very obvious what we're seeing here. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
there's a lineage.
yeah, man.
They
This
did their
is a
homework.
deep moment.
All right, I'm gonna.
Uh-oh.
Whoa!
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Forgot about that. All right, I'm gonna bring us back to the interview.
Yeah,
All right. So, give me your thoughts.
oh man. Well, first of all, again, like the lineage. You know, it seems like that's like the Master Jedi James. You know that Mike and Prince both took from, especially when it comes to dance and physicality and performance. You know, and a lot of stuff actually. But yeah, you know, and no matter what in the 80s, you know, we know Prince versus Mike, Prince versus Mike. They're DJ nights about this is Prince versus Mike, and this is, you know, really like the type of, there's a duality in them, and I think that really in some ways they kind of complete each other. I look at Mike and Prince like the yin and the yang. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
they really have something that kind of completes each other. But and me, Mike is a staple. Obviously, Mike is the king. You know, he's a staple. But there's something about Prince that I gravitated towards, and why he's, you know, he's the pinnacle for me. You know what I mean? Because he embodies it all, and that's what I mean. He truly is complete. You know, first of all, to have albums and records that are written, composed, produced, arranged, and performed by one man. It's something, and it's truly sophisticated genius stuff. You know, be it pop, jazz, just he has every vocabulary in the world. Top 5 guitar hero of all time, dead or alive. I don't care if you like Wes Montgomery or Slash from Guns N' Roses. My man will. Like I put him up against anybody. Like it's Jimmy, Prince, and then the rest. You know, like so. At least, you know, when it comes to that, you could put him up against anybody. And the other thing that Prince, why he's so important to me too, is that I think it was very important for Black music and Black culture and whatnot. Coming out in music when it comes to 50s and the 60s and the 70s, you had to be in this box. You had to be cookie cutter. You know, it was Chuck Berry with rock and roll. It was this, and then as soon as, you know, you could only have one Black person in that sphere. You know what I mean? And it was only that. When Prince came about, all those people in Black American culture that didn't necessarily see themselves in the mainstream, in what the image of what the rest of America thought a Black American should be, that cookie cutter box, you know what I mean? Prince was somebody who came out and made us feel comfortable to be as colorful as we want to be, as experimental as we want to be, as funky as we want to be, as, you know what I mean? And just really, truly let your hair down and to explore every facet of yourselves, including the ones that may not be accepted by society, including the types of things that are like make us as outcasts in this world, you know what I mean? And so that's why when Prince came in and, you know, you saw the cover of Dirty Mind and it was a dude who's wearing a thong and high boots and an open trench coat, you know what I mean? Like it started the game for everything. And so before him, there wasn't as much racing in terms of, you know, even just sexuality, you know what I mean, and what it is, and male energy and female energy, and being able to embody both, you know. And I think that really, he broke a lot of barriers when it came for that. So like for me, like that was very important, you know, because sometimes I would see certain things, but I didn't see myself in some of the the boxes and
Sure.
the cookie cutters. It was Temptations and Four Tops. You're a black
Right.
act. You did the Chitlin circuit, or
Right.
you were a jazz actor, or you wore a suit and you did the shoe wop thing, and that's it. And that's all you want. But it was George Clinton and the princes of the world, and the Sly and the Family Stones of the world, who told us that we can be as colorful and as crazy and as funky as we want to be, as long as we're expressing something. You know what I mean, to our culture that heals people and that brings people together. So that's why for me, like, Prince is the pinnacle. And the other thing is that Mike is the ultimate frontman. He's the ultimate artist, but he always worked with, these mega producers like Quincy Jones and Teddy Riley or whatnot. Prince is Michael and Quincy together.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like, Prince is a producer, you know what I mean? Right. So his ability to be able to play, his ability to be able to arrange, his ability to be able to produce on top of writing, singing, and performing, that's what makes him the end-all, be-all for me, and I strive to be a complete artist.
Well,
he's the pinnacle of it.
Full package thing. I have
full package,
those that know how to work with good people, because it reminds me of that argument about like Beck versus Beyonce. Do you remember that? That, well, Beck can play 20 instruments and whatever. Beyonce just sings, and she, it's like, yeah, but there's a lot to what she doesn't just.
Yeah, come on now.
Exactly. But I do agree that like when somebody is really the full package, when they write and they produce and they do the sing, they write everything, it's like this is another, do you find like because you also obviously relate a lot to relate a lot to Prince beyond the music, and if do you get turned off if like somebody like you love them musically or has happened where you love somebody musically and then you find out something about them personally and you're like really? Oof. I don't know if does that happen to you, or do you still like the music? What's your perspective on that?
There's never I don't have a general rule, you know what I mean? Because that's something that really taps into certain emotions and whatnot. But
like if we go let's say we talk about R. Kelly.
Yeah.
Like that's a I like his music or some of it, but as a person.
Yeah, and that's where I think that there's varying degrees of all of this. You know what I'm saying? And people have their different thresholds, and I think that somewhere I'm definitely somebody who's like, in terms of giving people second chances, not being too judgmental, knowing that if any human is in certain types of circumstances, that any human is susceptible to that type of bullshit. I'm saying that some of our artists who have disappointed us, you know what I mean? And as humans, we're capable of like a lot of bad stuff, so I try not to be on my high horse and be a social justice warrior about it, be like, oh, cancel the like I'm not down with the whole entire cancel culture. But there are certain limits. R. Kelly is committing crimes and felonies that are assaulting and abusing people. You know what I'm saying? Like humans and whatnot, as opposed to, he was a misogynist that spoke badly to, you know what I mean? So there's varying levels, Like I think I was talking to Sarah MK about this the other day, and she was like, oh my God, Prince was an asshole. And I'm just like, yes, Sarah. Yeah. He had a lot of insecurity, and he had his issues, you know what I mean? Like, and just like a lot of people are. So what I try to do at the end of the day is to not bring people to the status of icons and idols.
Right.
Because I think that that's where it begins. When you take somebody whose work you love so much and what they symbolize and what they represent so much, and you exalt them to that pedestal. You know what I mean? And when they're exalted to that pedestal, and then they show their humanity, they show their foibles and their weaknesses and whatnot, and they fall from that pedestal and fall from grace, and how much that disappoints you, how heartbroken you are. If you go into the art saying, I love this art, I don't know the person, but I love this art. So should the person find themselves, or should I find out that the person is actually really less than perfect and actually has done things, you know what I mean, that that whatever scale or degree may be, that whoever that I love is susceptible to that. So go into your art, go into your appreciation of the artist with that in mind, and that's definitely going to help the situation. And from there, there's not a one answer to that. There's not. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I don't know what else. There's the R. Kelly, there's Prince, there's I don't know. There's so many different,
Bill
there's a
Cosby,
huge range
like,
of it. Yeah, Bill Cosby too.
Jesus,
Like,
I mean,
yeah.
it's a difficult thing. Obviously, I don't have an answer. I'm not asking you for the
Yeah.
objective truth, but it's anyway. There is no answer. There is no answer.
There's a lot of varying degrees, But I think at the end of the day, that's what I try to tell people as much. It's just like, try not to idolize another human. Even if they're seem more than human, and they're, do that first with that, and to know that people are going to be people, and that not giving somebody a second chance doesn't help society. You know what I mean? So just to kind of have that humility in your heart, you know what I mean? Like when you come with that, because I just find that behind our screens, we're all keyboard gangsters, and, we'll cancel the da-da-da and things like that. But if you were in that same situation, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Would you have reacted the same way? You know what I mean? So we don't know what people go through. We don't know what their baggage is and whatnot.
I think your point of like not elevating somebody to this high pedestal, I think that's a great point. It's like everybody.
Yeah, man.
I sometimes say, this is live. I can fucking swear if I want to. I sometimes say, like, if you're ever meeting that super, like, I don't know who, like, I don't know, Madonna, or I don't know who, like some mega whatever, and you're just frozen, and you're just like, just be like, this person takes a shit like everybody else.
Man. Man.
It's for real. It's like, okay, they're human beings. Yes,
I'm telling you.
Like, give them respect for where they've reached, but they're still human beings,
Yo.
So I'm gonna.
The heroes will disappoint you.
Yeah, well, that's it. Actually, I'll mention another thing, which is Paul Carniello has a song called "All of My Heroes." I played with Paul for a brief period of time, and I love the idea of this song. The idea of this song, "All of My Heroes," is basically who is it that you like? Oh, you like this person. You like this person. If you start looking through what they've done aside from music, you're not going to be able to consider them a hero or enjoy them or whatever. Yep. So it's exactly jumping on this discussion. So kind of sort of related, this is a different side of Fredy that people may or may not know is your interest in journalism. And if you don't know, I first mentioned that in the lower right there, you should see Fredy's Instagram, and he is going to be doing an interview with Nora Toutain right after this on Instagram Live. So make sure you check him out on Instagram Live. And he's been doing. How often are these interviews? Is it every day, or is it when you feel it? Or?
Yeah, they've been kind of casual, but they're kind of picking up speed. And I have to say, I'm kind of like slacking a little bit, where I just should make them more official. So yeah, it's going to be every Thursday at 10 p.m. I'm going to have somebody on, from the scene, reaching out internationally to other people, and and at least doing that is artist to artist interviews, because that is at least one of the things that I was able to set up. I think it's fantastic when you have a journalist who is actually from the industry, who is from the craft, who is able to ask the interviewee, certain questions that, maybe your regular Entertainment Tonight Canada, or, just the Gazette, or a very general 101 blog, But to be able to get into the mind of those artists from an artist's perspective, I love artist-artist interviews. I think those are a casual consumer can get something out of it. And then, your supreme nerd who is really, really in the craft can also get something out of it as well, too. And pulling those stories out. And communications is something that I wanted to do when I was younger. Like, actually, truth be told, there was no more room in the communications department in Concordia, so I had to go and do something else when I came to Canada. But communications has always been my heart. Being able to write, creative writing has always been in my heart, something that I was excelling at school. Articulating your thoughts, and being able to have a camera in front of you, and to be able to do public speaking, all of that is stuff that is very dear to me. The workshops that we did before as well too were things that kind of reignited that, you know what I mean? So be it a knowledge to knowledge transfer in workshops and conferences and panels, be it artist-to-artist interviews like what I did with Hybrid during the last 2 years of the Jazz Fest. I had the chance to interview guys like Michael League, Leonie, Keon Harrell, the trumpet player, Christian Scott, the trumpet player, you know what I mean? And so that's where I really started knowing, when I was starting to interview like giants like that, and the conversations that like we went into, I was like, okay, you know what, that's something that I really want to do. and also to curate, you know, make sure that these stories are recorded and told, and make sure that we get stuff out of these artists before they leave, you know.
Absolutely.
And oh my God, my man, oh my Lord. Do you understand that this was backstage at the Herbie Hancock performance at Place des Arts? Like, I met Herbie 5 minutes before this.
Right.
I've rubbed shoulders with celebrities and pretty dope ass musicians and whatnot, but man, being there, dude, James Genius on bass, Lionel Loueke on guitar, and Herbie.
Yeah.
And interviewing Lionel Loueke right before the Herbie Hancock show, that was, man, this guy, and you know, he gave me his phone number. He was like, you need anything. Wow. And for example, too, like something that we talked about in this interview that he really appreciated, and that's why I was like, I got to do this, because I'm able to get aside from these artists and turn them on to something that they want to speak about.
Right.
Lionel Loueke is from Benin, you know. And he is a jazz guitarist who grew up in West Africa and who has been able to combine all of his musical influences. And I read up something, you know, as a journalist, you do your research first before you,
Absolutely.
And you do your homework on the person before. And I kind of read a little bit about his childhood and what he used to do to be able to get a guitar, make a guitar, guitar string maintenance.
Okay.
And when he no longer had guitar strings, what he had to do to go get guitar strings. Huh. Like, that's a whole different thing, you know what I'm saying? Like, us here in Montreal, if Steve Music and Archambault closed tomorrow, we'd be done. We'd be like, okay, I'm gonna go chop some wood. Like, I'm done. I'm no longer a musician. My keyboard, my Nord Electro number 3 is completely obsolete. It doesn't work. I'm done. Yeah. And when you go to third world countries and you see how people are actually creating the instruments, I went to Cuba and I met this guy in Havana that created a guitar where the first 3 strings were stringed up like a tres, like a Cuban tres, you know, nice. Yeah. And then the actual voicings of the last 3 strings were like a classical guitar. Okay. So he created his own instruments with its own actual stringing and chording. You know what I mean? That's crazy. So Lionel Loueke, what he used.
What is I don't even know what the tuning of a tres is. Like, what do you know what the notes were, or? It's okay if you don't. Yeah, it's okay. But that's cool because it's like some crazy.
I'm pretty sure it's in fourths. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's there's that. Yeah, it's like fourths in the first, and then afterwards it was 6th in the guitar. I remember that's how he did it. You know. Okay. Yeah, it was. Yeah, exactly. You know. And Lionel Loueke, what he did was, you know, when his guitar strings would break, or like even before they break, just he would finish practicing, he would take them off and he would dip them in vinegar.
Right.
Just to keep them. He would restring them. When they broke, he would take it and then make knots and then restring it. So if there was a knot on the actual fret that was there, he had to avoid that knot because it would make him bleed. And then when there was nothing else, my man had to go to the border of Togo.
Right.
And would have to go to the duty free, which was a dangerous trip for him to go to the border of the country to be able to get guitar strings, and then like that pack of like, you know, a 12 strings or whatever, then it would have to last them 6 months or a year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's a completely different type of. So when my man is on guitar, even when it comes to mastery, he knows how to play the same note in every single way because when there were knots on those places, he knew how to avoid it. So it really gives you insight into like what the motivation and how these greats and these giants think. You know what I mean?
Well, it's like it's kind of part of the conversation of like total freedom versus restrictions, and I really don't believe in like total freedom. Like it sounds like some kind of crazy person talking, but anyway, but you know what I mean in this context. You know, like, you know, having some form of constraints on what you're doing, you know, gives you a way to think about, a way to approach it, and in this case, you know, actually a broken instrument, it gave them some new ways of approaching.
Exactly.
Interesting. So you've been exploring the whole journalistic thing and learning a lot. I mean, it's kind of like this double thing because you are an artist. So speaking to artists, there's a journalistic aspect, but there's also like, I'm gonna learn some things. I've been asking the people doing these interviews to prepare like some kind of technical advice or piece of information or exercise to share with people. Do you have a little something that you'd like to share with people in terms of a technical side of maybe an exercise or something like that?
I think when it comes to certain exercises and whatnot, I'm a singer and I'm a bass player, and I see how sometimes those two worlds can come together for me. You know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
whether it comes to the way I write bass lines or the way I'll sing something or certain approaches, and yeah, and as it's funny how as time goes and as the better you get at towards the steps you take towards mastering your actual instrument, the closer you get there, the more you go back to your fundamentals. And the more you start embracing really and truly the beginning stuff. And right now, if it's something I could say, especially in our community, our music community and whatnot, and being at the cipher and improving and jamming and making sure that you have like a vast vocabulary and knowing all of your harmonics and all of your extensions and all your voicings and whatnot, I realize we really, really are kind of not emphasizing rhythm as much as we should.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And so for me, I've realized that, your sense of rhythm, your sense of cadences, and your sense of phrasing are so important, you know? So for instrumentalists, when I go for bass, some of the stuff that it takes a lot of discipline. And, me, like I remember the got me into this in terms of knowing really how to practice. Like I'm a singer, I'm on a different instrument, so you kind of noodle and you're playing and you think you're getting better in certain stuff. But for me, it was when I was able to take certain songs, slow them down at about half of the speed, and play them.
Right.
That meditation, it's a meditation. It's spiritual, and to be able to take certain things, either take super slow songs or take songs that and slow them down and play it, especially songs that have things that are not on the downbeat, things that are syncopated, things that are on upbeats and certain rhythms. So what I would do with the bass is take a Luther Vandross song, like House Is Not a Home, super slow jam, and be able to play it that slow. And getting all the hits, because if you're able to execute those times and those syncopations at very slow tempo, once you start speeding up the tempo and getting into real time, it's child's play. You're laughing. When you're actually in the groove, it's like the Matrix. Time slows down and you see everything coming at you, and your time becomes super dope. So if you're like at 60, clap,
Right.
clap, do things super slow and things are upbeat. Boom, 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 boom. See that up right there? That second that's on the up? Everybody rushes that in real time.
Absolutely,
You know what I mean? And so to know how to slow down certain things and do it. Same thing with vocals. Vocals when you're writing as well too. Like to know how do you have that bomb part? How do you have that sweet line? Like, is your verse really well constructed? And sometimes we're all in melody, sometimes we're thinking, but it's rhythm, man.
Absolutely.
Peep the cadence and peep the flow. Like right now, something that I'm doing with Mel Pacifico, like it's really hard because we're writing at a distance right now and we're not in live time. So what I'll tell her is be like, okay, you know what? Do it by yourself because there's a bit of delay. Slow it down and just clap out. Don't even sing the notes. Clap out the part that you just wrote.
Right.
And when you clap it out, then you're just like, oh, okay, like that's what it is. And then you sing it, and then you realize like, oh, that could have more swag. It's kind of a square thing. So maybe if I could swing it here or do something here. When you slow things down and have the discipline to do so, which takes a lot because when we're on instruments, we're erratic. We're obsessed. It's about trying to play the fastest, and there's a lot of pressure in trying to get to the level that we want to get at. But to breathe, you're breathing and slowing certain things down, and then speeding back up, and then getting to that level. Like even with the musical direction, that really helped me out a lot.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of value to that, and I hope that people are listening and actually going to do that. I have a couple of questions that you kind of brought up in that. So first thing you said was that you were working with Mel. So do you write kind of collaboratively with the people in your band, or do you kind of like set it out in your head and like this is how it is, or is it a balance of the two, or like how does that all work?
Oh man, well, I mean, with this last record, I think it was really cool. And me, no matter what, I love collaborating. There's definitely been I've done the thing of alone of writing, like especially as like a funk writer and
Right.
some of the stuff on Varsity in my first
Also, you're
record and some of that
multi-instrumentalist.
classic ones.
You know what you want, kind of. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. So in terms of having the ability to do, but me collaborating with people is just that's where I thrive.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I love co-writing, co-composing. But the way that we did it with this record actually was really, really cool, actually. And you know who actually gave me the tip on it? Because I've realized I'm an artist working with different songwriters, different producers. This time for this record, I was working with a band. The foundation
Right.
has transformed into a band, you know? And I called my man Lewis from Busty and the Bass.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like,
nice.
yeah, and I was like, so I talked to him, like, yo, how do you guys put things together? Who has final say? Like, you know what I mean? I'm going through the thing about the record. He was like, bro, first of all, thanks for calling. And he's like, yo, like, it looked like he was waiting for the call. He was so generous with the information. He was like, man, there's no stress. I'm telling you right now. He's like, just bring some food.
Right.
Bring whatever libations or you need to get yourself loose. Make sure everybody's just comfortable in the place. You set up 2 condenser mics in the room and go off.
Right.
And just no pressure. Go off. He's like, I guarantee you 90% of what you will sound like shit. 90% will sound like shit. But that 10% will be gold. And from that 10%, you can take these different nuggets, and each nugget is a song, and you build the song off of it. So it's so cool to just put up 2 microphones with all these dope musicians, seeing where they're going, seeing all those things. And then afterwards, me, Calder, and Mel going back and listening to it and being like, yo, this is a really cool section. Yo, this is really hot. Yo, this. And we just kind of highlighted and identified other people in the band as well, too, told us what they preferred, where they felt really like that something coming together in those jams. We would highlight it, and then from there we would start to produce and then send out the parts, and then we would reconvene with the band and then finish the arrangement together, and then go back and finish the actual production. So I found that was like a really cool way of kind of working at stuff where you can have that creativity with no holds barred, nothing holding you back, no pressure. Oh my God, I have to like write this hit. I got to write this amazing opus. Just make sure that you let whatever's inside of you creatively, that you let it come out, you know? And then from there, you edit it. The other thing that I do too as well is that a lot I do is kind of set the parameters of the song and the vision.
Right.
The vision of it. It's like, guys, we need a kind of a track like this. I want a track that's kind of up tempo, where the lyrics are speaking about something that is necessarily uplifting, where it can touch our funk side, but as well start mixing in some of the Afro elements that like we haven't done and that are part of our culture, that is super out there right now, and find a very fresh way to kind of make those type of mixes. So this song is going to be about this topic with this type of melody and this thing that kind of aimed at this direction. And for me, somebody who works with a publishing company, as somebody who has licensed track and is trying to license track and see things that are licensable, and whatever is about the vision. You know what I mean? Not just about writing the song, but where do you see the song being? What does the song sound like? What type of effect do you want the song to have on your listener? You know what I mean? And that's where me being a producer comes into play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is on an executive tip, on a very macro tip, and saying like, this is where we need to go. This is the type of thing. Now let's execute it under these parameters. So at least the musician is not like anything goes. They kind of have a bit
not
of a
total
guidance.
freedom, right? Not total freedom.
Total freedom. You know what I'm saying? But at least a bit of a guide, so they're not just like, okay, well, what do you want me to do? You know what I mean? So they're just like, okay, cool. Thank you for pointing me in the direction that we're looking to go to. But within this direction, there's a whole lot of freedom, you know? And all I do is that, man, like, check out all these musicians I'm surrounded with. And, you know, me before music, before even like touching and talent and art, you know, it's about relationships. It's about team building. It's about trust. It's about putting people in positions where they can be efficient and be the best version of themselves without the pressure. You know what I mean? And so like that's my job pretty much in the group. So when they start pumping out material after I give them certain parameters and they pump certain things, they just send me diamonds.
Right.
And all I do is just catch the diamonds and I polish it, and then I put it in. I catch the other diamond, I polish it. I catch the other diamond, I keep on polishing. I'm like, okay, cool, guys. This is a really cool track. We're going to sing this. Now we need to write something that's very inspirational, something that's uplifting for the kids, something that'll, you know what I mean? Like, that'll make people cry, like, because, like, oh my God, like, that song speaks to me, and thank you for this song. This is where we want to go with this. And then after this transition, and we go into this other part, me and Mel are not going to write anything. This is an instrumental. The whole band looks at me like, what? Are you crazy? Like, y'all ain't saying, I'm like, this is an instrumental part. There's nothing, this is what it needs to be.
Right.
And that's and they're like, all right, and then they do it, and you know, and then I'll just polish. All I do is polish. You know. Yeah. So I love doing that, working with other people who throw me nuggets with writing and composing, and then I take and I arrange and I produce.
So I didn't know that a lot of it was based on, you know, starting with sort of a, like you said, 2 microphones in the room and go from there. I also know it's 9:51 and you're going to have to go soon because you got your Instagram stream. So maybe this will be the last question or something along those lines.
No problem.
But I guess my question is, since you know, are basing it around, or not basing it around, but, you know, you're giving your guys something to eat. And then you see how they take it and where they take it, and then you know, refine it and dip it into something. So are there specific characters? I guess, you know, a lot of it just has to do with who you've played with over the years. But are there certain specific things that you are looking for or not looking for in your bandmates? Like, I'm sure there's, obviously, without getting into specific names of people, whatever, but I'm sure there's people that you play with that are like, oh, this guy's dope, but it would be totally wrong for this project. Or like, are there certain things like that you're like, oh, this is something that, you know what, all of you people out there got to stop doing this. Like, what do you take on people what are you looking for in your band?
That's really a great question. It's funny. You know who really made me think of answers? Like a few weeks ago, I was talking to Theo. And Theo was like, oh, gee, like, you're the band leader, you know what I'm saying, that I'm looking to, you know? So, like, what do you look for in members? Like, what do you look for in your bands and whatnot? And I was like, oh. And then I'm like, I kind of looked who I was talking to, and I'm trying to see who our audience is, and I'm like, musically speaking, y'all know what time it is. Y'all know who can hang and who can't hang.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Y'all know the people who learn fast, the people who absorb fast, the people who, at a rehearsal, can hear a directive and make it happen quickly. The people who have the chops, people who have good time, good ear. Y'all know that. I don't need to tell y'all that.
Yeah.
You know what it is? It's the other aspects of band leading where it gets, and it becomes, and where it's relationships, where it's building. I came to the crossroads with a foundation where it was just like, I've always wanted a band, but I had to kind of look at myself in the mirror and see how I was kind of going about it. And I think the most important thing with finding bandmates is after you understand what the criteria is musically, which you should know, 50% of it is the other stuff building, man. Knowing what it is to build a team. And for me, I think when I started understanding is when I was asking my members, I was just like, where are you in life?
Okay.
You know, and it's just like, what's going on in your life, you know? And it's kind of like, yo, I want to do this. And what are your aspirations as well, too? And so to kind of get on that personal tip, because I think in order to be in a group together, band, people have to be on the same page and at the same space in their lives. Meaning that, yo, I'm ready to build something. I'm ready to join. I'm ready to commit something and bring something from the ground up. Some people are in a good time in their lives to be able to do something like that. Some people are not. They're musicians who are part of 10,000 projects. They're musicians who are part of some people who just finished a tour and it's a perfect transition moment. You know what I mean? And whatnot. So to understand that, like, what do you have kind of going on in your life? And is this something that you're kind of looking for? You know, is this the type of thing that you would be interested in as a band leader? So to show interest in the lives of your potential members, you know, and see how it is, because at the end of the day, when you're in a band, you spend more time off stage than you do on.
Yeah. Oh my God.
You know what I mean? So you have to like build relationships. And then the other thing too, which I found that it was a game changer for me as soon as I started asking this, I asked this to every one of my members. I said, what do you want? Where do you want to get to in life or in your career? Like, what are you looking for in your career, and how can the foundation help you get there?
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
As soon as I started thinking like that, instead of, yo, what can you guys do for me?
Right.
And how can you back me up and being the artist, instead and being like, what can I do for you? and how could this serve you, and what are you looking for, and how, and so that's when you start hearing those answers. You're like, all right, cool, bet. I understand this. Oh, yo, people want to do this, want to do that. I want to write more. I want to produce more. I actually want to engineer this project and learn how to produce. You know what I'm saying? That's Calder,
Right.
He's like, I want to be able to take over complete engineering. I want to be able to be a producer, a full-fledged, and have this, but I do not want to do necessarily some of the stuff that is a bit more team building, relationships, and reaching out to people and some of the leadership. I was like, oh, I know what he likes. I know what he doesn't like. I know how to put him in a position where he's comfortable and he will thrive.
What
Ronnie
happens?
too.
What happens if somebody says like, I want to do X? I really want to do X. I really want to do X. And you're like, man, X is really not what I want happening in this band.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if their desires are not at all in line with you? Or has that
Then
happened?
that's not the person. Then that's not the person. And if they tell you what their desires are,
they're already in the band. Then you start asking, hey, what do you guys need? What are you guys looking for in your careers? And then they say, I don't know. Let's say somebody said, I want to produce all of your albums, and you're like, I don't want you to. Like, you're a great whatever. Like, you're great in the band, but I don't necessarily want do. I mean, this is the thing about, like, we both run projects, and
no doubt.
interpersonal relationships are extremely difficult dealing with. Have you had to deal with that? Is that something, like, how do you?
Oh, for sure, man. Oh, dude, you got to deal with it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I think that in terms of in a leadership position is to take accountability if you've done something wrong, or if you know it, or if you don't think of it. At the same time, it happens on your watch. You know what I mean? So it's just like to know that, and then B, if there's necessarily a disagreement or whatever certain things, then if that's not necessarily conducive to what you're doing, you got to be able to say it from jump. Don't be like, okay, I'll think about it and let me get back to you, and kind of sweep it under the rug and then never address it. Like, and that's something I have to say. Like, in Montreal, as musicians, we are so afraid of confrontation. Stop that shit. Stop it now. Right now, all of y'all. Y'all need to look each other in the face, in the eyes like this, and be like, yo, this may be a little uncomfortable, but this is what I want, or this is what I'm looking for, or things have changed, and now here's where I am, and to find a compromise and to find a solution. And if that solution is not, you guys can't find one, whatever, then that's where you guys go your separate ways, but it's always going to be in respect because everybody's put their cards on the table. But as a band leader, it is your responsibility to find the members, to build your team and know your members and what they're actually looking for, and to see, again, what do you want out of life in your career, and how does this group help you get there?
Yeah.
Because if it's only serving you and it doesn't serve the actual member, then what are we actually doing here? Then you're just a musician dressed in black and backing up some R&B singer. You're Whitney Houston. You're not a band. You're not a group and whatnot. Even if you are a front singer and you're putting together a band just for a tour, it's not like a band and you're the boss and you're the one who does it. There's still aspects of it. It's no interpersonal relationships, man. That is so important. That's something that I got a slice of humble pie, man. Got a good slice of humble pie a few years ago and started flipping the attitude and whatnot. And it just a lot of fruits have come out of it. And just serve as a band leader, as an artist, and whatever. It's not about me and how my band can back me up and how all my fans can look at me on stage 10 feet above in the air and me, and I need to get something off of my chest and express this angst from my childhood trauma. There's true. It's part of it.
That's a part of it.
There's a side, but I think about it as like, how do I serve? I'm here to serve my band. I'm here to serve my community. I'm here to provide music and art for my culture. When I come to the Cypher, I try to have that, even if, we're tired and we're not always on our good days and things like that. And, but I'm there to serve my community. I'm an artist here. I'm here to bring culture. I want people to know that they have a culture church that they can come to once a week and that they're going to get fulfilled, and that is my duty to serve. So once you have that intention in your heart, like a lot of things just start lining up that way. You know what I mean? It's a mindset thing,
I think one thing I don't get with certain other, not with, this is not you at all. I would say, we've all seen shows where the band was not properly rehearsed, or people are not dressed properly, or all this kind of thing. And I'm just like, do you give a shit for the music that you're represent? Like, obviously, if you're a musician, you're a music fan, and that probably means that you're like insane about a certain style of music, right? And then you show up with this garbage, whether it's the way you know, it's all this aspect, and it's like, man, respect. Never mind, respect yourself. Respect the music that you're bringing forth to people. You know.
No doubt.
But
No
I
doubt.
gotta say one thing about Fred, and I know we're gonna have to go very soon. In fact, this is probably the end right here. Fredy, one thing I always really appreciate about you is that you're a very upfront, honest, direct person. You know what I mean? Like I've decided to do something, and then you've been like, Vincent, I think this is a bad idea. This is why I think it. And blah 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 blah. Of course, if I were like, Fredy, I don't care. This is the way I'm doing it because I'm the leader in this. I know that you wouldn't be like, oh, that fucking guy's in it. Like you also understand. You understand both sides. You know what I mean?
I understand my position.
Exactly. But I love the fact that you are not, because I know a lot of people are in a situation where they're playing for somebody else or working for somebody else or whatever, however you want to see it. And they're just like, oh, well, I'm not going to say anything because so-and-so, Fredy is the leader and he wants it that way. It's like, well, yeah, but he's not infallible. He may, you know, it's possible he sang a note off key or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's possible. So it is, you know, an honesty without getting into like personal attacks, all this kind of thing. It's very important from the band members, from the leader, from all this kind of thing. So we're gonna wrap it up over here because Fredy's got his live stream. So definitely head over to his Instagram. It's right there at the bottom. Anyway, you'll see it. It's Fredy V Music. Fredy V Music. I think that's pretty much it. Oh yeah, next time. Yeah. So one thing you mentioned, you did this interview with Herbie Hancock. So next week we're interviewing David Osei, and one of David's, or the person he listed first as an influence is Herbie Hancock, and I didn't know that. So that's an interesting interesting thing. So we'll talk to him about that. And I think the last thing I'm gonna do is let me just find it right here. I'm just gonna.
What you gonna do? You about to out me right now before this.
I'm just gonna.
I swear, if you pull up any boogie, if I pull any boogie, I'm cutting the call off right now.
Man, why is this so? I don't know, man. I had to. What? Oh no, it's not. What?
Oh, so sad. I gotta go.
What?
So sad. Oh, bad. So sad. Don Vincent. Damn.
Here we go. That's it, ladies and gentlemen.
Flip flops and linens, motherfuckers. Flip flops and linens. Okay.
This is the end of our very
Don't
first.
let me have to get my Kyries.
Thank you very much, Fredy, for being here.
Vincent.
Hopefully, we'll see each other in the real world soon. Check him out on Instagram really soon. Okay. Thanks so much, Fredy.
Appreciate it. Much love.
Much love.
Peace.